Verse 19. Revelling in spiritual discipline or sense enjoyment, revelling in company or without company. He whose mind rests in Brahman reality, he is happy, happy, indeed happy. You could be in sense enjoyment. Okay, and the example we've given here is a person with a cocktail. So they are at the bar, sitting by the pool, lounging, drinking a cocktail, enjoying themselves. You're enjoying the senses. And the mind, during that experience, is having that thought, here I am at the bar, wasting my money on alcohol and just, spending my time doing this. Why am I wasting my time here? I have a good friend. He's always in bed early and up early, and he's doing a lot of self-development work. He's very spiritual. You'd never find him at the club wasting his time and his money and his energies on booze, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. So the person's in sense enjoyment, but that's where their mind is. All right, now you consider his friend. His friend is at the temple or the church, or they are at their self-development meeting, or they are doing their spiritual practice in a cabin somewhere in the woods by themselves, doing their study or their meditation. And the whole time that his friend is in his spiritual practice, he says, why am I wasting my time here? Here I am sitting alone, reading my books and doing my meditation, and my friend, he's really living life. He's out there with his own friends. He's enjoying his environment. He's enjoying the senses. Isn't that what life is really all about? The ability to really just enjoy yourself. So the question is, which one is spiritual? In this simplified example, the one who's at the bar is the spiritual one. And the one who's sitting alone in his cabin is the unspiritual one. It's not the activity that makes you spiritual. What does he say in the verse? He says, reveling in spiritual discipline or sense enjoyment, reveling in company or without company, he whose mind rests in Brahman reality, he is happy, happy, indeed happy. So the question then becomes, what makes a person spiritual? If we can't tell what makes a person spiritual by the kind of life that they live, or the activity that they're engaged in, or by their behavior, then what does make a person spiritual? Yeah, what makes us spiritual is what's going on internally, whether we are reveling in sense enjoyment, or whether we are in our spiritual practice. And he says whether you're alone or whether you're with company. What makes us spiritual is that degree of self-awareness, our intention, and the actions that we're performing. So the idea then is that a spiritual person is one whose internal alignment is with the spiritual thought. Okay, now, what is the spiritual thought? It essentially means that you have connected yourself back to your self-development goal. Self-development, spirituality, I'm obviously using them here in a way in which they are synonyms. There is a difference, but the path of spirituality is also the path of self-development. Strictly speaking, the path of spirituality is to question and transcend identity. So we all have the experience of being someone. We have an identity. If someone asks you, who are you? You can answer it. It's not difficult for you to answer. Whatever it is that we claim to be, that sense that I am this is the ego. So ego, like a lot of words in this discipline, has a range of meanings depending upon the context. The ego is the belief that I am this particular body, mind, and intellect. And the example that we always use to try and illustrate this is the distinction between waking and dream. When you are in the dream, you have a body. And if something were to happen to that body in the dream, you believe this is happening to me. If you get into an icy cold water in your dream and it feels cold, it's happening to me. That's the way that it feels, because I believe I am this body. When you wake up, you realize that the body that you had, that wasn't me. It was just an imagined body. And I believed I was it. I'm this body. Good. So the belief that I am this is the ego. A spiritual goal is one that moves away from that ego. It seeks to gain objectivity to the body, mind, and intellect so that they can be witnessed. Why? The nature of the self, capital S, is absolute freedom. And any self-definition is a constraint on that. You're saying, I am this, but I'm not anything else. You can think of it from another perspective. If someone were to say, for example, oh, I'm a citizen of this country. Well, what you're saying is that, well, I'm not a citizen of any other countries. I love this country. This is where my heart lies. So you're defining yourself as just this nation, just this nationality. So it's a limitation, it's a constraint, it's a definition. Same thing, I'm this body, I am this mind, I am this intellect. Well, that's your self-definition, that's your self-constraint. And so spirituality is to allow us to glimpse, by analogy, the same thing that we experience when we wake up out of the dream, which is I'm not that. And it's a sense of expanded identity. And so the things then that happen to the body, mind, and the intellect, you relate to them appropriately. You haven't dissociated from your body, mind, and intellect, but you no longer define yourself as them. And so there's a sense of greater freedom. So a spiritual person is one whose attention is moving in that direction. So there is a self-awareness. Where are my thoughts anchored? What's going on in my mind? Intention. What am I doing right now? What am I feeling right now? What am I thinking right now? And why? Why am I permitting it? And the action. When you have understood or connected yourself to an internal goal, that then must express itself as action. If we connect ourselves to our ideals without acting them out, then the ideal can become just like gold on a mule's back. I want to help others. Okay, if we just hold it as an ideal without really actioning it, then it's not truly an ideal. And so that brings us to this idea of a goal or an ideal or a spiritual goal. Spirituality is to have a thread of awareness anchored to that spiritual goal. And so our spiritual goal or our self-development goal, I'm using them synonymously here, has two aspects. One is to serve the well-being of others, to extend your own well-being. And the other is a growth goal. So it's recognizing where the ego functions, where there is, if you like, an immaturity of view, and making a commitment and having a vision of what greater maturity looks like. So these two things are our relative ideals, serving others and having a growth goal. Beyond that, the absolute ideal is to dispense with the ego entirely, is to completely wake up from the belief that I am this body, mind, and intellect. So my growth goal might be associated with improving the quality and the nature of my mind and intellect, improving the quality of my emotions, to embrace more, to surrender, to have gratitude and devotion, The quality of my thinking might be more around, same thing, what is real, what is the truth? What is my nature and how can I use it to serve others? That's where my thoughts lie. But there is a thread of awareness which goes back somehow to my ideal, my self-definition or my growth goal. And then you enjoy. You allow that part of your mind to enjoy the experiences that you're going through. And there's another thread which is holding on at all costs to that anchored spiritual thought. And this phrase, hold that thought at all costs, that comes from the Vedanta treatise. It sort of sounds like it's saying, put your conscious thought force in to grip it and don't let go. So it sort of has that connotation. It's important to realize that that kind of gripping hard onto a thought is really useful. What is forced is never forceful. There's actually another quote straight from the Vedanta treatise. So what do? Do I hold the thought or do I not force it? Well, it's both. A really good example to illustrate what this holding on to the thought or to the spiritual goal is like is the analogy we've given before, which is you're on holiday and you wake up and you look at the schedule, at the hotel, and you see that there's a minibus leaving at 6:30 a.m. to go to a local tourist trap. You get on the bus and they take you to the tourist trap, and as everybody's filing off the bus, the hotel worker says, now remember, we leave from this spot at 6 p.m. to go back to the hotel. Great. And so this person goes to the beach, and this person goes to the museum, and this person goes to the market, and this person goes for a bushwalk. All the time that they are enjoying the sun or the sights or the sounds or the food or the smells, there's a thought in the back of their mind. The bus leaves at 6. Are they gripping on to that thought, holding it at all costs so that they don't miss the bus back? No. It's a general awareness. It sits there. It's not intrusive. It doesn't stop you from enjoying what you're enjoying. It's something that you know. And you never really lose sight of it, maybe except for the guy who goes to the bar. He's the one guy who misses it. So there's a self-awareness. I know what I'm doing, but I also know that there's this other thought here, and there's the intention that whatever I'm going to enjoy here, I'm going to be back at that spot by 5:55. That's the intention. And then there's the action associated with it. Enjoy the market, enjoy the museum. But when there's something that starts at 5:30 and is going to go for an hour, you say, no, thank you very much, because I have to get back to the bus. Same thing. Whatever you're doing, you're raising your family, you're running your business, you're enjoying your friends, you're enjoying your senses. There's a thought of your goal, your self-development goal and your spiritual goal. And it is whatever it is for you. So we have the obligation to spend some time crafting what that goal is and practicing what it looks like to remember the bus leaves at 6. So that's the way he puts it here. Well, not the bus part. He whose mind rests in Brahman reality. So whatever it is that we're doing here in the world, there is a thought connected back to the reality. He says when you do that, then you gain genuine satisfaction. Because there is that objectivity. What enables us to be objective is that we are relating to our experiences from a higher perspective. There's an idea that we are connected to, and that idea also is appreciated by the mind. We surrender to it. And when there's that confluence of head and heart towards the spiritual goal, then we view our circumstances, we view the contents of our awareness objectively. We're not involved in it. And it's the objectivity that is the bliss. It's not the physical sensation. It's not the emotion that we're going through. It's not the thought that is fascinating us. It's the objectivity that gives us that sense of bliss that we're looking for. How do you get it? Connect yourself to a spiritual goal. And that's what he's talking about here. Mind resting in Brahman.